I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for graduate school, and I had a classmate there who was working for a company called Mode, and they had done a lot of work in the past for David Axelrod, who was the campaign strategist, and Axelrod approached them asking them if they could do the identity early on. This was December 2006, and they said they didn't usually do identities, but they could bring in a partner. So then this classmate of mine, Steve Jurist, gave me a call, and I sent over a couple of logos that I had done. I had just started my firm a few months earlier. Now I'm with VSA Partners, but at the time I had my own firm, and I shot him over a couple of logos that we had recently done, and that was enough. and then we just started working on it almost immediately. The last week, I think it was like December 21st, 22nd, and then by the first week of January, we were pretty much done with the logo, and which was very quick for a logo. And then he announced his candidacy. I think it was like early February. We were involved supporting the campaign for a number of months there, and then come the summer, we sort of stepped away, and they brought a full-time in-house design team who did a lot of great work. But that's sort of the high level. Then, we developed a lot of options, probably about, I don't know how many we presented in the first presentation, maybe 9 or 10 logos. But it all happened very, very quickly. We didn't really get any request for changes to the logo that was chosen. We did make a slight change and rotated the red stripes to make it look a little bit more like a landscape. But that was of our own doing. The campaign was very pleased with a number of the options. We actually recommended the one that they chose because it was something new, but it also had very traditional elements as well, the red, white, and blue, and the stripes. And we felt that it was important for the candidate to have those kind of traditional elements as part of his campaign identity. We worked, yes, in Illustrator, yep. And I'm trying to think what we presented in, probably in Keynote. Did some work in Photoshop because the gradient, the logo, we had a version of the logo which had a kind of gradient that created a sort of three-dimensional. That was always a little bit difficult. Not so much in the programs themselves in Illustrator and Photoshop, but when it came time to printing it, that was a little bit tricky. So in retrospect, the gradient, maybe should have been only used for web graphics. Yes, I'm at VSA Partners, and we've been on CS4 for a while. Ever since. We're very quick to upgrade. When I had my own firm, maybe I was a little bit slower to upgrade because it can get a little expensive, but yeah, we're up in CS4. Generally, I do a lot of strategy. I don't sit at the computer as much these days working in CS4, but I'm probably a little bit behind. I was actually a Quark guy. I was one of those guys when everyone shifted to InDesign from Quark, I was kind of, rotating or moving into leadership positions. So I never quite, made the full transition, though I do work in InDesign sometimes. Well, I mostly work on my laptop there, which is a MacBook Pro. The designers are on, geez, I'm not sure which, they're on the towers. Everyone's on Intel, of course, these days. And at home, I just have a nice iMac that actually works pretty well. I mean, especially for web stuff, you don't really need. When I had my own firm, all the web designers and programmers just had iMacs. People who worked in print had to have the towers, I think, although, sometimes it seemed like everyone could be on iMacs. They're so much more powerful than, the machines were back in '96, '97, than the best machines were, so. Election night, actually, I was in San Francisco. I was visiting my family. Actually, I went out there to speak to my high school. They wanted me to come and talk about the logo, and I hadn't been back since I graduated. And So I was in San Francisco. I was driving to my mother's home when it became clear that it became clear that he won. They hadn't sort of formally announced. And then I got to my mother's house, and we had the TV on, and then they announced, and we were watching Grant Park in Chicago, Jesse Jackson and Oprah Winfrey crying, and it looked wonderful. I was a little bit sad that I wasn't in Grant Park, but I had scheduled that trip. So